LeBron James's behavior toward his son Bronny has set tongues wagging across the internet, from TikTok videos racking up millions of views to a suspicious backstage interaction that put the entire NBA world on notice. Was it fatherly love or something darker? What the internet saw, the viral claim, and how it spread. Let's start with the claim at the center of everything. In late 2024 and carrying into 2025, TikTok began filling up with videos titled things like Bronny and LeBron kissing drama and LeBron and Bronny kiss on the lips AI. These videos depicted what appeared to be an intimate post-game or backstage moment between LeBron James and his son Bronny, one that sent comment sections into full meltdown mode. Some viewers were shocked, some were confused, and some were asking a very specific question: is this real? The answer to that question matters, because the framing of these videos was doing a lot of work. The narration on most of them was designed to make you feel like you had just seen something you weren't supposed to see. The algorithms pushed the content to millions of people who had never gone looking for it. And the engagement, the comments, the shares, the outraged reactions kept feeding it higher and higher up the discovery page. But here is what a deeper investigation into those clips consistently reveals. Multiple creators and Reddit users openly admitted to fabricating or heavily editing the footage using AI tools. The videos were not documentary footage. They were not leaked backstage recordings. They were deep fakes, AI-generated or AI-manipulated content, produced specifically to generate clicks on a topic people already had feelings about. This is not a fringe observation. It is the conclusion that surfaces every time anyone has actually tried to trace the origin of these clips back to a verifiable source. No outlet that covers the NBA with any credibility, not ESPN, not NBA.com, not People, not Yahoo Sports, not Marca, has ever reported, filmed, or documented a real incident of LeBron kissing Bronny on the mouth backstage. The story does not exist outside of TikTok's AI content ecosystem, and yet, by the time most people encountered the narrative, it had already been repeated enough times that it felt like established fact. That is the specific danger of this kind of content. You don't need a mainstream outlet to verify something for it to feel verified. You just need enough people sharing the same video and reacting to it the same way. What made LeBron and Bronny such a perfect target for this kind of manipulation? A few things. First, the father-son story was already one of the most publicly documented relationships in the NBA. LeBron had been open about wanting to play with his son since Bronny was still in middle school. Every hug, every celebration, every sideline embrace had been on camera and scrutinized. That visible closeness gave the AI fabricators material to work with and an audience already primed to have opinions about it. Second, LeBron had already become a target for a wave of AI-generated deepfake content that had nothing to do with Bronny. LeBron took legal action against AI creators who produced deep fakes, placing him in absurd or compromising scenarios, including images of him pregnant and fabricated clips alongside other celebrities. The backstage kiss content slotted neatly into this existing trend of using LeBron's image to manufacture shock content. Third, and this is the part that doesn't get talked about enough, there was already a real and documented narrative about LeBron being too involved in Bronny's life and career. That narrative existed independently of any AI-generated footage. Critics had been saying for years that LeBron's level of involvement in Bronny's basketball development crossed a line. When the AI clips landed, they didn't create a conversation out of nothing. They attached themselves to a conversation that was already happening and gave it a visual, sensational hook that the text-based criticism never had. Real footage of LeBron and Bronny tells a very different story. Post-game hugs, high fives during introductions, LeBron visibly tearing up at milestones. LeBron has always been physically expressive, with teammates, with fans, with family, and the moments captured between him and Bronny fit entirely within that established pattern. The NBA's own official social media accounts have posted and celebrated these moments as wholesome father-son bonding. No analyst or commentator, upon seeing the real footage, reached for the word disturbing. The word disturbing belongs to the AI content, the manufactured version of events that lives on TikTok's Discover page and circulates through group chats and comment sections. It is the language of viral misinformation, not documented reporting. But here's the thing about viral misinformation: it doesn't die when you explain it. Mutates. By early 2026, searches for LeBron Bronny kiss still surfaced AI-generated content ahead of any real footage or credible reporting, which tells you something important about how the algorithm weighs engagement over accuracy. The claim had become self-sustaining. a piece of internet lore that kept resurging every few months, regardless of what the facts said. And embedded within that lore was an assumption that LeBron's relationship with Bronny was somehow excessive, controlling, or inappropriate. That assumption is what we need to actually examine. Because even stripped of the AI fabrication, there is a real conversation happening about LeBron James and how he parents his son. There are real people with real criticisms who have gone on the record. There are real incidents, documented ones, where LeBron's behavior toward people who challenged Bronny made front-page news. The question is not whether LeBron is emotional and intensely involved in Bronny's life. He clearly is. The question is where that intensity comes from and what it has actually looked like in practice. To understand that, you have to go back, way back to a boy growing up in Akron, Ohio, who spent his childhood asking himself a question he couldn't answer. The boy from Akron, the wound that built the father. There is a version of LeBron James that the world did not get to watch in real time. Before the championships, before the billions, before the King James nickname became etched into sports history, there was a kid in Akron, Ohio, who had no consistent place to sleep and who missed nearly 100 days of school in the 4th grade because there was no reliable way for him to get there. LeBron Raymond James was born on December 30th, 1984, to Gloria Marie James, who was just 16 years old at the time. His biological father was absent from the very beginning, never a presence, never a name that came with stability attached to it. Gloria, a single teenage mother, was left to be LeBron's everything, provider, protector, parent, at an age when most people are still figuring out high school. The material reality of LeBron's early childhood is staggering when you sit with the numbers. The family moved as many as 12 times between LeBron's early childhood and his 4th grade year, bouncing between apartments in Akron's rougher neighborhoods, couch surfing with relatives and friends, displaced again and again by evictions, condemnations, and the grinding arithmetic of poverty. In 4th grade alone, LeBron missed close to 100 days of school, not because he didn't want to be there, but because there was no consistent roof, no consistent transportation, no consistent anything. LeBron has spoken about what those years felt like with a kind of honesty that makes clear the wounds never fully closed. He described waking up every morning with one consuming fear, that his mother would be gone. "I became afraid that one day I would wake up and she would be gone forever," he has said. "It's really all I cared about when I was growing up, waking up and knowing that my mom was still alive and still by my side. I already didn't have a father." That last sentence carries the whole weight of the story. He already didn't have a father. So the loss of Gloria, even as a hypothetical, even as a recurring nightmare, would have meant being utterly alone. An 8-year-old boy running a private calculus of survival every single morning. And underneath all of it was a question he kept returning to about his father's absence. He has recalled asking himself, "Why didn't my dad want to be around? I feel like I'm a pretty cool kid. I'm a good kid. Why wouldn't he want to be around for me?" The cruelty of that question, asked by a child about himself, is that it puts the burden of explanation on the wrong person. The child wonders what he did wrong. The child edits himself trying to figure out what would have made his father stay. LeBron grew out of that framing. As an adult, he recontextualized the absence. "As I got older and kind of have my own family, I started to think I am who I am today because he wasn't there." In 2014, he put it even more directly in a public Instagram letter that went everywhere, essentially thanking his absent father for making him who he became. "Because of you, Pops. Thanks all along. Could have said why me with you not being there, but look what I made of myself." That reframing is powerful, but it doesn't mean the wound stopped shaping his behavior. It just means he chose to metabolize it differently. Psychologists who study father absence in boys describe what they call father hunger, an emotional void that doesn't simply evaporate when a man becomes successful or when he consciously decides to be different. It manifests, sometimes as hyper-independence, sometimes as an overwhelming need for control over the things that feel precious, and very often, in the next generation, as compensatory parenting. A father who throws everything he has at the job of being present, because presence is the exact thing he was denied. LeBron fits that profile with almost textbook precision. He and Savannah, who have been together since high school and married in 2013, have 3 children: Bronny, born in 2004, Bryce, born in 2007, and Jury, born in 2014. LeBron has made his physical presence at their events a near constant, school milestones, games, moments that most NBA stars at his level would have missed because of the demands of the schedule. He has spoken about being a father as his foundational identity, not a side character in the LeBron James story, but the entire point of it. With Bronny specifically, that investment took on an extra dimension because Bronny was from a very young age following his father father directly into the thing LeBron built his life around. Every AAU game, every high school highlight, every recruiting conversation happened in full public view, and LeBron was there for all of it, posting, celebrating, amplifying. Critics called it helicopter parenting. Supporters called it a father refusing to repeat the sins of his own absent childhood. The truth is that it is probably both things at once, which is how human beings usually work. The boy from Akron who sketched NBA logos in notebooks because he had nothing else to hold on to grew up to be the man who held on too tightly, not out of malice, but out of a love shaped by fear. A fear that if he loosened his grip, even for a moment, the thing he valued most might vanish the way everything else had. The real confrontation, Stephen A. Smith, nepotism, and the line LeBron drew. If the AI-generated content gave the disturbing behavior narrative its most explosive fuel, it was a real-life moment in front of thousands of people on an NBA court in March of 2025 that gave it something the deepfakes never could: authenticity. LeBron James walked over to Stephen A. Smith during a Lakers versus Knicks game and told him, in no uncertain terms, to stop talking about his son. The language LeBron used was reportedly strong. The interaction was brief and impossible to ignore. Cameras caught it, lip readers and observers weighed in, and within hours, it was one of the most discussed moments in the NBA's news cycle. A four-time champion, a man who had navigated decades of media scrutiny with remarkable composure, crossing a courtside boundary to address a commentator face-to-face. Smith later described the encounter on his own terms. LeBron had approached him as a father, not as a basketball player, and the two men, who had previously maintained a cordial, if occasionally tense, professional relationship, walked away not liking each other. "We don't like each other," Smith said bluntly, without apparent regret. But what had Smith actually been saying? That is the part of this story that gets lost in the drama of the confrontation itself. Smith's criticism of LeBron regarding Bronny had been a recurring theme on First Take throughout 2024 and into 2025. The core of it was not personal, it was professional. Smith's argument, repeated in multiple segments, was that Bronny James was in the NBA not because of his basketball production, which by most analytics standards projected him as a late second-round pick at best, limited in part by the cardiac arrest he suffered during USC practice in July 2023, but because his father wanted to play with him, and his father's influence over the Lakers organization was powerful enough to make it happen. "We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad," Smith said in one widely circulated segment. He pleaded directly with LeBron, framing it as something a concerned adult says to another adult to consider what the exposure was doing to his son. The argument was that by fast-tracking Bronny into the league under a microscope he wasn't ready for, LeBron was not protecting his son, but exposing him. That every underperformance, every missed shot, every minute logged when a more developed player might have been on the floor was being documented, dissected, and held against a young man who had not had a conventional path to get there. Smith was emphatic that his target was LeBron's decision-making, not Bronny's character or effort. He maintained that distinction even after the confrontation, pointing out that he had never personally attacked Bronny, but had consistently challenged the choice that put him in that position. Fox News reported Smith characterizing LeBron's approach as weak, a word that landed hard in the context of someone like LeBron, whose entire brand is built on strength, resilience, and an almost aggressive refusal to back down from anything. The Lakers selected Bronny at number 55 in the 2024 NBA draft. LeBron had been publicly vocal for years about dreaming of playing alongside his son, his agent, Rich Paul, and Lakers GM Rob Pelinka pushed back on the characterization that external pressure drove the pick. But LeBron's own comments, describing the father-son pairing as something he had always wanted, gave the critics a direct quote to point to. "The dream and the decision existed in the same sentence. That is the kind of thing that makes a nepotism argument very difficult to fully dismantle." On October 22, 2024, LeBron and Bronny became the first father-son duo in NBA history to play in the same game. The moment was historic in a genuinely unprecedented way. The league had never seen anything like it. LeBron was visibly emotional. Bronny was composed in that characteristic low-temperature way of his, the way that has led observers to note repeatedly that he seems to have inherited his father's on-court IQ without inheriting his need for the spotlight. By early 2026, they completed the first father-son assist in league history. LeBron finding Bronny for a three-pointer in a moment that LeBron described afterward as crazy. For supporters of the pairing, this was the payoff. For critics, it was a nice moment inside an ongoing argument about whether the entire arrangement had been good for Bronny's development or for the integrity of the roster. Smith was not the only voice in this space. Colin Cowherd and Kendrick Perkins had weighed in with their own versions of the nepotism critique. Reddit's NBA communities had produced threads dissecting every Bronny minute logged performed with a relentlessness that went beyond normal rookie scrutiny. And through all of it, Bronny himself had responded with a consistency that surprised many observers. He ignored it. He focused on defense. He talked about his work ethic. He gave interviews that were composed and direct. Control, culture, and the lens we use to look at LeBron. Here is where things get genuinely complicated, where the story stops being about any single incident and starts being about the framework we use to understand public figures, Black fathers specifically, and what we have decided too much love looks like. The label hyper-possessive is a clinical sounding term that has migrated into casual discourse about LeBron's parenting, and it is worth examining with some care. In family systems theory, developed by figures like Dr. Salvador Minuchin, hyper-possessiveness or enmeshment refers to a specific dynamic where the boundaries between parent and child become so blurred that the child's independent identity is compromised. The parent's emotional needs become the organizing principle of the child's life, rather than the child's own growth and autonomy. Does LeBron James exhibit elements of this? Yes, genuinely. The career orchestration, the dream of the father-son pairing translated directly into a roster decision, is the most significant example. The public emotional investment in every Bronny milestone, documented in real time on social media, is another. The confrontation with Smith is a third. These are not small things. But enmeshment, as a diagnosis, also requires the other half of the picture, a child whose autonomy is being actively suppressed. And that picture is considerably harder to make when you observe Bronny James directly. By 2025, Bronny had moved into his own apartment. LeBron noted this shift with what reporters read as a mix of pride and something close to separation anxiety, commenting that Bronny is not a resident anymore, so we don't talk as much. He laughed when he said it, but the fact that Bronny had established his own space, his own routine, his own professional identity distinct from his father's orbit suggests that the dynamic between them allows for growth in a way pure enmeshment does not. Bronny's own communication style in public has been striking for what it is not. It is not the communication style of someone performing under the crushing weight of a controlling parent. He is measured. He deflects noise. He talks about basketball the way someone talks about basketball when they actually want to be there. Research on elite athlete offspring consistently shows that the outcomes hinge on the balance between support and pressure. Strong present support builds resilience, especially in young athletes recovering from significant setbacks. And Bronny had a significant one: the cardiac arrest in July 2023 during USC practice, which required surgery to correct a congenital heart defect and reset the entire timeline of his college career. LeBron's response to that crisis was immediate and all-consuming. He paused his own schedule, advocated for privacy, and placed Bronny's health at the center of every conversation. Critics later argued this protective response slowed Bronny's return to independence. Supporters argued it was exactly what a father is supposed to do. The comparison to other legacy athletes is instructive here. Tiger Woods and his father Earl have been dissected in every sports psychology seminar worth attending. A relationship that produced one of the greatest athletes in human history, and ultimately one of the more documented examples of how intense parental investment can create excellence and complications in equal measure. Richard Williams, father to Venus and Serena, was called controlling, calculating, and manipulative by critics who watched him steer his daughters toward the most consequential tennis careers of their generation. The pattern is recognizable. The outcomes vary. What LeBron has that many of those comparisons do not is Savannah, a stabilizing presence whose role in the James family dynamic is consistently underrepresented in the public conversation. She has been quietly visible in interviews and family moments, and observers who have watched the family over time tend to describe her as the grounding counterweight to LeBron's intensity. That dynamic matters. Enmeshment tends to thrive in environments where there is no balancing figure. The James household appears to have one. There is also a cultural dimension to this conversation that deserves to be named directly. Black fathers in American public life carry the weight of a persistent stereotype, the absent father, the disengaged parent, that LeBron's visibility directly challenges. His presence at his children's events, his emotional expressiveness, his willingness to say publicly that fatherhood is his identity, all of this sits in deliberate opposition to that stereotype. And in that specific context, a man who is too present, too affectionate, too vocal about his children becomes a kind of category error. The culture has a framework for the absent Black father. It is much less comfortable with the intensely present one and tends to pathologize the intensity intensity as something other than love. LeBron has explicitly identified Michael Jordan's more distant parenting style as something he consciously rejects. He knows what the alternative looks like. He has chosen a different path with all the messiness and scrutiny that path invites. Lakers owner Jeannie Buss publicly supported the father-son pairing and pushed back on the nepotism framing. The organization made the pick. The organization has continued to give Bronny minutes. Whatever private conversations happened inside that front office, the public face of it has been consistent. This was a deliberate choice, not a capitulation to a star player's whim. And then there is the I. Promise School in Akron, the educational institution LeBron funded for at-risk children in his hometown, paired with transitional housing for the families of enrolled students. This is LeBron's own childhood trauma, institutionalized as public infrastructure. The same wound that makes him hold Bronny tightly has produced something that holds other children, other kids without roofs, without fathers, without the basketball scholarship that was his way out, with the same intensity. That detail does not cancel the criticisms of his parenting, but it reframes the source of the intensity as something other than pathology. The verdict, what this story actually is. Let's put the full picture on the table. The title of this video asks whether NBA players have revealed disturbing behavior by LeBron James toward Bronny. That is the question the internet has been wrestling with, and it deserves a direct answer. The specific claim that launched the most viral version of this conversation, the backstage kiss, the footage that circulated on TikTok under titles designed to provoke maximum outrage, is AI-generated content. It is fabricated. It is not documented by any credible reporting outlet. It is not supported by any verified footage. No mainstream source, ESPN, NBA.com, People Magazine, Yahoo Sports, Marca, has ever documented or filmed such an incident. The claim, in its most extreme form, does not hold up. What is real is considerably more textured than a viral clip. What is real is that Stephen A. Smith confronted LeBron's decision-making about Bronny's career on national television, repeatedly and emphatically, and that LeBron responded by walking over to Smith courtside during a Lakers-Knicks game in March 2025 and telling him, in the language of a father rather than a basketball player, to stop. That happened. It is documented. It is on record. Smith has confirmed it and described the relationship as permanently damaged. What is real is that serious analysts and commentators have raised legitimate questions about whether Bronny's path to the Lakers was driven by basketball merit or by his father's desire to fulfill a dream, and that the distinction matters, not because either LeBron or Bronny is a bad person, but because the NBA is a competitive professional league where roster spots represent real consequences for real careers. What is real is that LeBron James is an intensely, demonstrably, sometimes uncomfortably involved father, one whose investment in his son's life and career goes beyond what most people in his position would do, and that this investment is rooted in a childhood defined by the complete absence of the thing he now embodies, a father who grew up without a father, overcorrecting at scale. That is the emotional engine underneath all of it. What is real is that the disturbing framing, the word borrowed from AI-generated outrage content and applied to a man who hugs his son after games and tears up at milestones, says more about our collective discomfort with visible male affection and with a black father who is present rather than absent than it does about anything LeBron has actually done. By early 2026, LeBron and Bronny had completed the first father-son assist in NBA history. LeBron described the moment as crazy. Bronny described it the same way. Yahoo Sports and ESPN both covered it as one of the more genuinely remarkable family moments in professional sports history. The two of them, on the same court, connected by a pass, a physical enactment of everything LeBron has been building toward since Bronny was old enough to hold a basketball. LeBron, at 41, has started talking about Bronny's growing independence with something that sounds like pride, winning a slow battle against the part of him that wants to hold on. He's enjoying the process, he said in one 2026 interview. It is a small sentence, but it carries something in it, the acknowledgement that his son is a separate person with a process that belongs to him. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.